All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Bill. Hello,
How are you
everyone.
today?
Doing fine. How you making out there?
I am still in Florida, and I'm doing it to it. I put long pants on today and went out to the car because I bought a printer yesterday because I needed a printer. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we won't go there because mine is up in Connecticut. And I came back in and said to my wife, Pamela, I think I might need to wear shorts today. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before I get started, I'm going to drop a bomb.
Okay.
This is episode number 380, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you the name of today's episode. I want you to know that we have had some major, 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 major changes in real estate last week. So the next couple of podcasts, I will be talking about that. I didn't want to change this podcast because I already had it written, but I want you to, if you're a normal listener to the podcast, I strongly suggest you listen to the next couple podcasts because real estate is going to change forever. It is huge. And this is not some hype by me. This is huge. But
Mm-hmm.
today's podcast, which is number 380, is how to increase your creative real estate deals quickly in today's economy. How to increase your creative real estate deals quickly in today's economy.
Sounds good.
Here is a description. Excuse me. As the economic landscape, excuse me, my goodness. As the economic landscape of creative real estate shifts beneath our feet, we all start to wonder how we can not only survive, but flourish and prosper. And we all hesitate to pivot when we need to, often waiting too long, then having to catch up. Of course, losing profits along the way. These challenges not only affect the rookie on what to learn today, but also the pro wondering if he or she is doing the most current deal structure for himself, the seller, and the buyer. Imagine having those best strategies that could turn the tables regardless of your experience. We're talking about doing deals that could make the difference between doing what you are doing now and comfortable retirement. So, if you are ready to explore some possibilities that today's creative real estate holds for you, this is your moment. The next chapter of your life story could be the most exciting yet, and it all starts by listening today. So, grab your favorite beverage and let's get started. Okay.
All right, there we are. Strong words, Mr. Hawthorne.
I got it. I got it. All right. So, housekeeping. So, first of all, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for any support you give us. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Make sure if you're on one of the platforms, because we live stream usually on Thursday mornings at 9:30, sometimes on Saturday mornings at 9:30, depending on what my schedule is and Peter's schedule is. But on those platforms, you can give us a thumbs up. You can give us a comment. We love that. You know how social media works, Peter. The more comments we get, the more people that give us feedback, the more people that see it, and then that whole thing.
Snowball.
I don't necessarily play that game, but if it's up to our listeners to do that for us if they like our content. And of course, if you need any help, if you're on those platforms while we are live, you can type in the in wherever they allow you to chat or do any description or anything like that. Just type in there, and I have a screen in front of me, and I can answer your question if your questions are pertaining to the podcast. If not, then you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right hand side is a support button, and you can send us a support ticket for myself or Peter. And I will respond. I usually respond to them. If there's a question for Peter, I'll send it to him, and he'll respond, and I'll send it back to you. Okay. Last thing is you could go to a couple things that I have. I never talk about, but on WhatsApp Messenger, I talk about that all the time. Let's talk real estate. Or
Mhm.
you can you can go to creativerealestateanswers.com, and I actually have I have my own AI, so you can ask questions about creative real estate. So it's creativerealestateanswers.com. You can go there and it can answer a lot of questions of how I would answer your question if I was live with you on a call. Okay. Whew, get through that. I always that's not my favorite part of the show,
Well, I'll get a pre-recorded for you one day. We'll insert it.
huh? We should do that before we go on air.
Yeah, just like, and here a message from us. Emma goes click, and there it goes in there.
Here we go. All right,
Yeah.
Pete. So today I'm going to introduce a new concept for getting deals.
Hmm. Really?
So the listeners need to pay close attention because I've never done this before. Um, because I actually do it. Didn't realize I do it. I tested it with some others and it kind of worked, but I needed to explain it. So technically, this podcast is not a podcast. It's a coaching session for my coaching clients because when I get done, I'm going to give it to them and have them study it. So if you're not a coaching client, um, you're reaping massive benefit today because it's really for them. It's a little bit advanced, but it is what is going to make you deals if you do it. Okay. But I want to forewarn our listeners, if you actually understand it and apply it, today's podcast, without putting in your own stuff to it and adding to it
Mm,
or subtracting to it, and you actually do it,
mm,
you can't fail to do deals. It's just impossible.
hmm.
Right? So how do I know? My goodness, my throat is all. Let me clear my throat. So how do I know? Because the few that have implemented it, these secrets, have recently just crushed it.
Oh.
And this is really with some of my creative REI reply users that do
Hmm.
this. They don't even know they're doing it until I bring it to their attention, and then they just get
Oh.
unbelievable results.
Yeah, they think it's normal. They got some good stuff from you. They think that's usual. Huh?
It's the investor's personality that
Wow.
makes the difference. It's
Wow.
their emotional level and how they view life that makes a difference.
Crazy.
Yeah. So first thing I want to cover is some new language.
Hmm.
So there's two words.
Hmm.
One is psychology,
Hmm.
and the other is sociology.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let me explain. These are the two different ways of giving an offer to your seller. Okay.
Wow.
So the psychology is based on the scientific study of the seller's attitude, overall behavior towards the offer, and their motivation,
Mm,
and how the deal would affect them mostly emotionally.
right.
So psychology is the behavior of the individual, how they respond, how they accept your offer, how they engage with you,
Mm,
right? It's all of that. And you are scientifically studying it if you do what I teach you to do. And one of the things that
yeah.
I teach is it's not the questions, it's not the script questions that are important, it's the answers. And this
Mm,
is this is the this is the advanced lesson or session, if you want, on what I mean by that.
mm.
Am I clear so far?
Yes, because we spend so much time thinking, geez, what do I ask the guy? What do I ask? What do I say? What do I say? What do I say? You can miss the point that when the guy answers, he's telling you what you need to know. And that's why you ask the question, to get his answer and listen and go do something with
So
it.
you want a major secret? I know you
Yes,
know this, but you want a major secret?
sure.
When you ask a question, here is what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You understand them,
Mm-hmm.
you acknowledge them,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep working on the offer.
Mm-hmm.
Get that?
You understand them, and then you acknowledge them. And I listen to a lot of people talk. A lot of people don't know what that is. It's not answering. It's acknowledging that you heard them, so they know.
No. It's not acknowledging that you heard them. It's
Yeah,
that you understood them. I
yeah,
understand that if you sold the house, your husband would be pissed. I
yeah,
got that.
yeah.
But let me show you what we can do,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you want $20,000 for a new house to put a deposit on it.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand that. I get it. But let me show you what I can do.
And let me add, it's not. I heard you say blah 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 blah. That's
Well, it's not
something,
well,
right?
it's not perfunctory like, you know,
Yeah,
I need to get $20,000 on my next deposit. Okay. Well,
yeah,
let me show you what I can do.
yeah,
You missed the understand part. You got it. They have
yeah,
to feel like they were understood or duplicated,
yeah.
or you're tracking with them and you're
Mm-hmm.
just not trying to do something for you. You're actually on their side.
Right.
Huge nugget. I didn't write that on my paper, but
Mm.
that is huge. You have to understand them, acknowledge them, and then move on with the offer.
Yep.
Right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to take it up. Grant Cardone talked about that, about uh, sold or be sold. He talked
Mm-hmm.
about how you have comments. Sellers make comments, or
Mm.
what does he call them? He doesn't call them comments. He calls them,
Some kind of distraction.
yeah, I think it's, yeah, I forgot the name of it. But he said 85% of what the seller tells you is a complaint.
Ah.
It's not actually a real thought or emotion or an origination that is actually happening. You know,
Mm.
like my leg hurts. Okay, well, can we continue? Is that okay if we continue? Because so what, their leg hurts,
Mm.
you know? So 85% of the things you hear from a seller is just a complaint.
Yeah. I don't know if I like the color.
You know, in other words, a complaint means, and I'm way off topic here, but a complaint means you don't take it up. You don't need to answer it. You don't need to. All you need to do is understand, acknowledge, and keep going, moving on with your offer.
So in some way, it's not really, really relevant to if they're going to buy it or not. It's just something that they're throwing out. It's not a real thing like, geez, I don't think that'll fit in my garage. Well, maybe you have to handle that, or just
Yeah.
something that's really important. So do you need to handle it, or should you just go on? Maybe you could
My
tell
rule of
them.
thumb is if they bring it up 2 or 3 times, I take it up. Otherwise, I don't even bring it up. That's my
Right.
rule of thumb.
So you're
And I
better
know it's
off,
real.
if you're not sure, just leave it. If it's important, it'll come back,
Right.
rather than taking it up and wasting time and getting distracted from the actual issue.
So what I should say is you understand it, you acknowledge them, and you keep moving with your script.
Mm.
I'm saying with the offer because to me, I don't use a script. I keep making the offer. However you do it, but you keep
Mm.
pursuing the offer either with a script or you keep doing. The point that I'm trying to make here is that if you don't do that, then the seller takes control of the conversation. You lose control, and that's where most people, because I've heard probably thousands of times at this particular point, that the seller knocks them off the script.
Yep.
That's the reason why, is because they don't know how to understand the seller's origination or the seller's concern or the seller's complaint. They don't acknowledge and they don't go back to the script.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they get
Yeah.
into a whole Q&A, question and answer, on the person's comment, which is what the seller wanted, was a big fat Q&A to distract them from actually having to answer the actual raw question, like how
Yep.
much do you owe,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
All right, so that's psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then sociology is a broader social context. This is an offer approach that is based on what groups of people do. It is not individual based. This is where most rookies fall into this group think,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
They are trained to do what everyone else is doing, using common scripts and offers that are one size fits all. So they're
Yeah.
more worried about how to do it instead of what to do.
Mm,
They're worried about how, like you said before, they're worried about what to say. They're
mm,
worried about, do they like me? They're trying to look for that one hypnotic sentence, right?
mhm.
That the seller will say, "Yeah, I'll give you my house." Chauffeur said, "Good morning, fellas. Good morning, Trevor. How are you today?" Or Topher.
Topher.
Yeah.
Morning, Topher. So it sounds like the big difference of like talking to people in a generalized fashion, assuming I heard something on the news like someplace that there's a group of people that don't talk directly to each other. They just talk about, I am this type of person, you're that type of person. And they never get to the issue because you won't understand me because I'm this and you're that. Like, no, just listen to each other. So the psychology part is more direct to the person and listening to that person in front of you.
No, I think both of them are that way. You're in front of the person or you're on the phone with them.
Mhm.
The difference is the interaction. So this
Yeah.
is kind of a breakdown of, instead of being interesting, be interested.
Yes.
So like, well, let me go on a little bit more and we can come back to what you're asking, okay?
Yeah, you
So
probably covered it. I'm just tracking along because
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah.
sometimes I hand you a sheet of information. Bill, this guy is 70. He probably wants to sell by now because he's probably a tired landlord. So I'm not talking to the guy. I'm assuming he's in some general class,
Exactly,
right?
exactly. There you go.
That's what we're
This is
don't
the
do
reason.
that.
This is the reason why I don't look at your sheets before we go into a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Is because I want to get into the psychology, which is the attitude and the motivation and the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why the personal emotional connection to the transaction. Because here's what most people miss. We are so off script. When you decide that you want to get rid of a couch in your living room,
Mm-hmm.
you go on the Facebook Marketplace, and often within an hour it's gone.
Right.
Agreed?
Yep.
Minimally an afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
mostly a few days, depending on
Oh,
how much
easy.
you're asking for a couch.
Yep.
Right?
Weekend, it's gone.
Right? End of cycle. Start, change, stop, completed.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
A house is not that way. A house takes months worth of work. Even if you put the house on the market today and sold it tomorrow, it's at least 30 to 45 days of closing procedure, unless you're dealing with somebody like us.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, what is it that's pressing on that seller to put up with all of that work and emotional roller coaster? Why are they putting up with that? What is it that they want to get away from or get out of the deal that's causing them to put up with that aggravation? And most rookies don't think of that.
Mm,
So when I'm we'll say in session with a seller, in other words, when I'm on the phone, I'm in a quiet space and I'm not distracted by anything else, and I'm just in the psychology of why are they going through this agony to sell this house?
mm,
Is it need or greed? Need means that they're aggravated with it, there's something going on, and they're trying to get away from it.
yep.
Greed is they have something else they want to do with the money from the house,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why I say need deals are something within the property. Like, I'm tired of, I've heard these objections. I'm tired of cutting the grass every week,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lump sum of freedom, John says. Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like, like what's a lump sum of freedom? So um, John Patterson. I haven't seen him in a while. So my point is that when it's need, it's usually something in the house, like I'm tired of cutting the grass, or I'm tired of paying the bills, or I have to come over here once a month to check the heat, or blah. There's always something that you would think is very minute because you would gladly do that if you own the house, but to them, it's a mountain. It's a
Mm-hmm.
problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, so we're going to move on because I'm way off topic. So
Okay.
when on the phone with a seller, they tend to try and get so the social. We're talking about sociology, right? So so the sociology method is when you're on the phone with a seller, uh, rookies or the wrong people will try to get to fit the seller's attitude, emotions, needs, want, motivation
Mm.
to their script.
Yeah.
It's backwards. They're trying to get them to fit into what they know.
Right. They know how to. We know how to do this, so the seller hopefully can fit in my bucket instead of the opposite. What does the seller need, and how can I do that for him?
Okay, so I want to put the gauntlet down right now because I'm going to be rude as F.
Should I take my headphones out?
Here's the point. This is an absolute, positive, most definite observation. This absolutely is a truth.
Mm.
Here's why. I started Creative REI Reply with Sean Shirk, who is my other partner. He is parallel to you, right? We were doing deals
Mm-hmm.
together. We were using REI Reply to do creative real estate deals.
Mm-hmm.
We built a creative real estate system inside of REI Reply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sean and I did that. You saw that happen.
Mm-hmm.
We were using it. My coaching clients were using it. We were all using it, right? And
Right.
then David Espelat and Susan Ishman are the owners of REI Reply. REI Reply is a wholesale platform. It's just to buy wholesale real estate,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we were using it for creative real estate, right?
Right.
We became partners with David and Susan, and the four of us, mostly Sean, David, and I, built because Susan does all the support and she's amazing at it.
Mm-hmm.
We built Creative REI Replay. Okay, I know this because the people that came from REI Replay, mostly the ones that couldn't make it work, came into Creative REI Replay, and this is what they were trying to do. They were wholesalers, and they're trying to get the seller to fit into their model.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't do it. So what would happen is they'd go through 10,000 names before they can find that one golden nugget or that needle in the haystack.
Mm-hmm.
They come into Creative REI Reply and they start seeing the other options, not the other options, the other choices of the other 6 types of offers they can make. And all of a sudden they go boom.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm telling you is an absolute fact. If you're trying to do the sociology type method and fit the seller into your mindset or into your type of deal, you are losing deals. Right? So
Yeah.
let me put it a little bit clearer for you so you can understand the importance of this concept. Ready?
Yes.
Nice and simple, Bill style.
Mm-hmm.
Psychology offers are making offers proactively. Sociology offers are reactive. Now, I have a very interesting observation. I'm not going to go into politics here, but I believe this is what happens. I believe the Democratic Party, when you listen to them, they get on stage and they want to talk about the buzzwords so they can get voted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think all the Republican Party, but I know Donald Trump does not talk about the buzzwords. He talks about what really needs to happen.
Mm.
Now, some people may not agree with me on that because Donald Trump has been bashed so much that people don't even have the correct information. And they're bashing him just because they're in the sociology group. Everybody else is bashing him. I might as well too.
Mm-hmm.
The information they got was not correct.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important example for when you're buying real estate, because you have to speak to the seller human to human, and you need to be able to get the correct information, because
Mm.
if you don't get the correct information, your ideas will be wrong. Just like for many podcasts I've been talking about, words are very important, because words control how you think, and how you think controls how your action is. So
Yeah.
if you had the words misunderstood, or they will make you think incorrectly, and you will do the wrong things. Information is the same way. If you have the wrong information, you will think wrongly and you will act wrongly.
Mm.
And most people do not spend the time to query information they're getting and qualify if it is correct. And the best way to do that is to try it or apply it and see what happens in the physical universe.
Yeah.
Yourself.
See if it works. Um, Something you said about a minute ago made me think. Not go into the conversation with preconceived
Right.
notions.
Right.
And people say a lot of things based on what they hear other people say, not their own observations.
Can't tell you how many times you're right, Peter. I can't tell you how many times Sean would send me a deal. I have a subject to deal. You need to call them right away. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
And I get on the phone and they don't even know what subject to is. And he just did the math and thought it was the best mathematical offer for him. And he had a preconceived idea. This is a subject to. He
Mhm.
would go into the call with that language and then not be able to back out of it because he's too far into it now, and he would lose the deal.
Yeah.
See, when you actually don't care what the seller says to match your script layout,
Mm.
and listen to the seller real, honest to goodness stress and emotion concerns, you start to see deals that unfold in front of your eyes. So sociology is you're not listening to them.
Mm.
The feedback is critical. Jim Camp's book called No, which is excellent for sales. If you want to understand how to sell, that is one of the best books on the market, right? He says that no's are just a roadmap on what the person really wants. Because if you ask a person enough times, um, like, well, give me an example. So, what don't you want out of your sale?
Mm-hmm.
What don't you want out of your sale? If you did that repetitively, what don't you want out of your sale? Okay, Mr. Seller, what don't you want? What don't you want? What don't you want? Right?
Mm.
Eventually, they'll just be like, well, all I want is blah. It'll just pop out. Right? All right.
Yeah.
This is the reason why, and I'm going to get to the deal structure here pretty soon, so I want to make sure that's clear, right? So this is the reason why some time ago I started preaching the only 4 things you need to know to do a deal are the price, the monthly payment, and the monthly payment could be from the seller or it could be from your private lender, or it could be the subject to deal.
Right.
The point is you got to know what your cash flow is going to be, or if you're going to stay in the deal. Because
Yeah.
if there's no cash flow, you may not stay in the deal. You may just sell it on a slot deal.
Yep.
Sandwich lease option transfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the monthly payment is important, but you need to know 4 things: price, the monthly payment, the duration of the payment, right? And that could mean how long the seller will let you pay them monthly until they want to get paid off, or it could mean how long is the subject to mortgage.
Yep.
Or it could be, here's another one. How long of the duration? So the payments could be, oh, well, I'm an investor and I borrowed money from a hard money lender and I got to pay it back by December.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know all this.
That's right.
Right?
And then the money.
Yeah. And then the 4th one is if the positive, they bring it up. So the reason why we did this, Peter, is so people don't need to get stuck on scripts.
Mm.
In their own conversation, they need to know those 4 things in that order, like what's your price? So the script that we have usually goes, they'll tell us, well, they want $300,000. Okay, well, the only way that I can give you $300,000 is if I make monthly payments until I can pay you off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only way I could pay you $300,000 in as is for your house is to make monthly payments until I could pay you off without the landlord obligations. Is that something we could talk about?
Right.
depending on what their answer is, we're into the psychology of the deal now.
Yes, and that's important, because when you first went to those 4 things, I said to myself, I'm thinking, well, where do I figure out his motivation and all the psychology part? And then continuing to work when that first came about, I realized you kind of do that at each step, right?
That's
You
right.
kind of
So
figure out, yeah,
because you
right,
asked that question, that's exactly what we're going to do right now.
yeah,
So now here is the secret,
yeah,
because Peter keeps asking me this question, and I've answered him on this, but I'm going to answer it very concise today.
mm-hmm,
Okay. So here's the secret. At what we don't talk about a lot, I don't talk about this a lot because this is advanced coaching. Now, remember, this is for my advanced coaching clients, right?
mm-hmm,
You're going to ask the questions in between price, monthly payment, duration, and deposit if they bring it up.
mm-hmm,
Here are the questions. You ready?
yeah,
They're not predetermined. You make them up. You're going to use the 5 W's.
ah,
Who, what, where, when, and why.
mm,
So let me give you some examples. Here's a few examples. Whose name is on the deed?
mm-hmm,
That's a who, right?
mm-hmm,
When asking how much they're asking for the house, how did you arrive at that price?
right,
Right? Why did they decide to sell now?
mm-hmm,
Right? What are they going to do once they sell? All right? This one is huge. This one is always missed.
yeah,
Where are you going to go next?
oh, geez, yeah. If they can't move, they can't sell. If they can't leave, yeah.
Ron LeGrand puts it on his script is when did you want to sell by? Or when did you want to
Yeah,
move by? If it's
yeah,
sell by if they're not living in it. If they're living in it, when did you want to move by? And that was for years, for a decade or two, what I used for motivation. When did you want to move by?
right. Because if it's really soon, like, oh, this guy's got to move. Is that next year, 2 years? Like, he's in no hurry. He can wait.
Here's another one. So that's a when, right? When are you going to move by? That's the when, right? So here's another one.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with the money when you get it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge question. That busts open the motivation every single time. Because remember when I started the beginning of the podcast, I said, "Oh, um, I lost my train of thought. When are you going to move by? Okay, no, it's so
What are you gonna do with the money?
yeah. What are you going to do with the money? You know, in the beginning of the podcast, it's like, oh, well, I want to go. I need to go buy another house with it. I need a deposit for my another house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you like it just was put at your a golden plate was put at your feet, right? You were just served on a golden platter,
Yeah.
and then you go off of that.
Yeah, because there's things you can do about that. Like, oh, well, I guess I can't do terms deal or anything like that because he needs the money. But there's things you can do about that.
Right.
If you help him do that, well, we can do that. We could do this or the other. You have to, I heard something the other day that the way you make money is solving people's problems.
Yep.
It was some
Kiyosaki
smart,
said
like Kiyosaki. I'm on his Facebook page. Solve problems. The guy goes, "I need the money to buy another house." I go, well, I can help you solve that.
Right.
How? Figure it out. Ask questions. Psychology.
So here's the point
Hmm.
I'm trying to make here is sociology bets on the deal and not on the person.
Hmm.
Where psychology, which is what I'd like to do is bet on the person, not the deal.
Hmm.
So when I'm talking to somebody, I'm more interested in the person than the deal, because just like what I said to you earlier, the secret for me is, what don't you want to do when you sell your house? What don't you want to do when you sell your house? If you were to repetitively ask that question 5 or 10 times or 20 times, eventually the person will, if they would play along, which they wouldn't because they would get aggravated, but if they did, What and try it. Try it with a kid,
Mhm.
right? What don't you want for dinner? What don't you want for dinner? What don't you want for dinner? Okay, tell me what you don't want to have for dinner. What don't you want for dinner? And then sooner or later they'll be like, Dad, or Mom, I just want spaghetti. They'll just tell you. I mean, try it. It's amazing.
Well, my wife is perfect at that. I ask her what she wants to do. She tells me all the things she doesn't want. For dinner, she tells me all the things she doesn't want. So we already got that down in our household. Nailed down tight.
Right.
I wish I was kidding. No, we're fine. The process of elimination. I don't want this. I don't want what's left.
So I prefer to bet on the person's attitude, their motivation, their emotions. I'm more interested in that because if I talk to them long enough, they will just tell me how to make the deal.
Yeah, but Bill, we have to listen and ask questions and talk to people.
Right. Okay. Which this brings us back to. I'm not just going to move on.
Oh, that's my comment, huh?
Talk about a complaint. So let's just go back to a core philosophy that you and I have had for a very long time, hundreds of podcasts at this point, right?
Yeah.
Is how to get a deal. How do you get a deal? How do you get a deal easily? So there's 4 steps. One is find and communicate to a motivated seller. So how do you find a motivated seller? That's the question I'm going to get in the support tickets. How do I find a motivated seller? Well, if a person's in foreclosure, you would think they're motivated, right?
Maybe.
Yeah. No, they're not. Exactly. If a person is in divorce, they might be motivated, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a person's got a free and clear house, are they motivated? Probably not. Right? So who would be motivated? Well, probate would be motivated.
Should be.
They don't want the house, right? They're siblings, they just want the money, right?
Yeah.
The other one would be out of area owners, which we find a lot of landlords, burned out landlords are motivated. They don't want to deal with the tenants every month. Every time the phone rings and says, "Oh, there's a cockroach in my kitchen," they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right? I made a big mistake one time. I made a big mistake. I will never forget it. I was in a networking group, and a guy said to me he wanted to sell me a house in New Britain that had caught on fire.
I remember that. Yeah.
He wanted to give me the house. He said, "I want to give you the house, but it caught on fire." And I dragged my feet for about 7 days before I went out there and got it. And he had already sold it. He sold it to the guy for, I don't know, I forgot what it was, $2,000 or something like that. And the guy turned around and wholesaled it for like 15 grand, which is what I should have done. Right? But my point is he didn't want the house. Here's the reason why. When I walked through the house and I looked at the house with him, right? Because I wanted to see the house anyways. He showed me the house and said that the insurance company paid him more than what he paid for the house, and he sold the house to the insurance company and made all his money. And then some. He made more than if he sold it on the market because he didn't have to pay any closing costs. The insurance company just gave him his money. Like it was worth $300 and he owed $150 or something like that. They just gave him $300. And now pay attention to what I'm telling you. Pay attention to what I'm telling you because this is huge. No closing costs, no capital gains tax, no anything. He just got $150,000 from the insurance company.
I remember the deal. I don't remember how it turned out. So just as a quick aside, if you total a car and the insurance company gives you money, don't they take the car? You don't get to sell it as well.
Yeah, but they don't do that with a house.
They just give you the money and it's for damage. Yeah. It's like the damages. Yeah, here's all your damages.
This guy's like, I made enough money. Now I want to get rid of the house because I don't want to pay the taxes or nothing. So he wanted off.
Yeah.
That is a motivated seller.
Yep.
Right. My point is the motivations that I'm telling you about, most people will chase foreclosed people. They'll chase, they think that these are motivated people. Well, somebody's foreclosed. Well, no, they got their head in the sand and they don't care. They've already decided in their head, let the bank take it back. Screw them. I'm going to live here as long as I can. What they're worried about is where they're going to live next. And as soon as they figure that out, they're done. They just walk away. They're taking no responsibility for this loan and this house at all. They're just walking away. They're a victim of it now.
Yeah.
They're not motivated, right? They're not motivated at all. But a guy that's getting a divorce and he's got his wife attached to him and he's got everything else done except for the house, and she keeps calling him and haunting him and keep re-stimulating him because they're divorced now, he's going to want to get rid of that house.
Because he also gets rid of her that way.
It's a
Or
psychological, emotional thing. And when you get that straight in your head, like, what is motivation? Motivation is the emotional pressure that the person's under or not under. So it could be emotional pressure for like the need part of it, or the greed part of it is they're emotionally ready to go buy a new house and they're all psyched up because in their mind they already have, my daughter's going to sleep in this room, they're going to be able to walk to school, all these things. I'm going to have a great neighborhood, I'm going to be able to have parties for my family. We're going to do this for Christmas. All this stuff is emotionally set in their mind. So they're motivated to do that. Much different than sociology, which is, this is how I should ask the question.
Yeah, it's like sociology is looking at the paperwork, and psychology doesn't give you the answer off the paperwork.
At the group, what most people are expected to do. It's a study of what most people are expected to do, right?
Yep.
All right, so let's go back to the four basic things here. So we find and communicate to a motivated seller. We tell them what we do. In creative real estate, I tell them, I like to make monthly payments and I can get you paid off. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Or get a discount. That's what we do. We make monthly payments until we can pay them off, or we get a discount. If we tell them what we do, they may just say no, and we're done. If they say they want to hear more, then what you do is you ask the seller what they need and want when they sell, which are the who, what, where, why, when questions. Right? We ask them what they want. Well, what I want is I just want to walk away. I don't want to have to pay the mortgage payments anymore. I get a subject to deal, right? Which, by the way, the best way in the world to get a subject to deal is say, would you be willing to sell for what you owe on it? Yeah. And right away whether you got a subject to deal. You don't have to spend a lot of time in questions. Like, just ask that question. And then the fourth thing is just give them what they want. So you're asking them what they want. So this is no different than me doing a survey with my email list of thousands of names, tens of thousands of names, and saying, what do you want? And then I make a product and I sell it. This is no different than standing up on stage in front of a, like suppose here's a good example. This is a Peter example. What was the concert? It just went blank.
Which concert?
In the 60s, the 50s, the big concert, the rock concert. Oh my God.
Well, there was a few. Like a regular concert, like the Beatles at Shea Stadium.
No. It was the big one in the field.
Oh,
Woodstock. So this is like, sorry about that. So this is like in Woodstock,
because I went there.
This is like at Woodstock for 2 days. There's no vendors. There's no food. People are like crapping in the woods because there's no bathrooms. There's nothing, right? You stand up on stage and say, hey, everybody's hungry now. I got hamburgers for sale over here. So you're talking to a hungry crowd. Or you say to them, hey, I got bottles of water over here, which back then bottles of water didn't exist. But you see what I'm saying? So how many people are going to go buy that hamburger? And because they're hungry and they're thirsty because they didn't have food for a day and a half, right? They've been drugging it up or whatever. And all of a sudden they realize, I'm hungry, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of granola, Bill.
Yeah, granola. So anyway, so you give them what they want. So too many get hung up on this last step, giving them what they want, thinking they're giving away all their profits, thinking, how can I give them what they want? Because sellers are ridiculous, which means you think you are losing in the deal or losing. If you think this way, like, first of all, if you think I can't give them what they want, you're losing deals.
Right.
Or if you think I'm giving away my profits, you're losing deals. Because I always say, how much you asking? Well, I'll pay any price for the house if I get to pick the terms.
Yeah.
Because there's two profit centers in real estate. There's equity, buy low, sell high, and there's cash flow. Most people, when they say give them what they want, are thinking they're losing because there's no equity. Yeah, but if you get terms and you could go across 5 years or 7 years making $500 a month, who cares how much? Because you know what you're paying today is not going to be the 5-year price or the 10-year price down the road anyways. So why are you hung up on that?
there's equity building up over the time period if you add time to it,
Mhm.
right?
Well, the average appreciation in America for the last 100 years is 3%.
Yep.
3% a year. So that means if you're paying top dollar right now, and you're getting now, if you're paying cash for it, that number, then you're wrong. But if you can get terms, in other words, pay for it monthly, and a year from now it's going to be 3% higher, and another year it's going to be 3% higher, and another year it's going to be, even with the downturns, it averages to be 3% a year.
Yeah.
So you have to trust the main rule in creative real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't do this. The main rule in creative real estate is designed to take money out of real estate, not put money into it. That's the main rule. Is real estate is made to take money out of it, not put money into it. See, if you pay all cash, what you're doing is you're replacing the money that's already in the deal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to have a complete concept and belief, because it's true that when you're speaking to a seller, they already have the money in the deal. They own the house. So if I'm talking to you and your house is worth $300,000 and you've got a $75,000 credit line on the house and you have all this equity, well, you've already paid whatever you paid for this house, and you've already assumed all of the appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there. So what most people don't realize is that creative real estate is not the house. It's not the money. It's the paperwork that controls the house and controls the money. That's what creative real estate is.
Should the law, sometimes as an educator, I find things are misunderstood because the names are too short. So if we made a complete long, accurate name, would it be creative real estate financing or
Yeah.
creative financing to acquire?
It could be called that. Yeah. So the point that I'm making is that the seller already has the money in the house, right? So suppose they got a $200,000 house, they owe $150,000. Well, why do you want to replace the money like the realtors do?
Yeah.
When if you show the seller that they can make more money by not selling and make them a shit ton of money by holding on to the house, the conversation changes. Right? So when you realize the seller already has the money in the house and the deal, and you need to leverage it. So your job is to leverage that money for you and the buyer. I'm sorry, you and the seller, right? And not replace it. You move into a whole new way of thinking with the seller, right? And by doing that, it's huger profits, way bigger profits. And I'm going to go over that in a minute. Way bigger profits for the seller and you, right? Which is why I created the Grand Slam offer.
Right.
And now that we're 40 or 50 minutes into the podcast, I can actually, because I've kind of got you on the same page, how to increase your creative real estate deals quickly in today's economy. Well, I'm telling you right now how to do it. Now, first of all, if you follow along all these methods I've been talking about, and they're not hard, you just got to understand how to do them, which I've explained mostly today. They're not hard. It's just a decision on your part. It's observing what's going on in the conversation, which most people have trouble with. Right? So there's a word in the English language that is very funny. It's called obnosis, which is observing the obvious. Like, for example, if I were to turn my head and ask Peter, what do you see? And he says, I see your ears. He doesn't see my ears. He only sees one ear.
Nope.
Right?
That's right.
If I say, what do I observe from you, Peter? I can say, I can see your mustache. I can see the thermostat behind your head. I can see your chair. You don't dub in or add to what you're observing, right? So when you're talking to a seller, you can't assume anything. You have to only use the information they're giving you directly. You can't dub in or add to what they're telling you.
Now, if you did, you're doing sociology, not psychology, directly, exactly with the person. Open your eyes and pay attention, open mind, and no preconceived notions and all that stuff.
Exactly. So we created this Grand Slam offer. It shows the seller how they can make huge profits by not selling for cash and leveraging what they already have in the deal.
Hmm.
This is getting into the psychology of the seller's thinking. Greed. Everybody has a greed button.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do this, we go from bucking the seller's mindset and all of the resistance of helping them with their asset and better returns to actually helping them. It is what I have called getting the seller to think differently with their money,
Mm-hmm.
or how much value you are offering to them by dealing with you. See, you are recalibrating their math. See,
Mm-hmm.
sellers won't do math. They don't do the math. They think generally. They're in
Like asking price, just asking price usually.
right. So here's the thing. When I was taught sales many years ago, when people are stuck on price, that means that they don't know what the other values are, and the only thing they know how to negotiate is price, because that's the only thing they know.
Hmm.
That's the common denominator that everybody knows is price.
Mm-hmm.
But if they know there's other value they can negotiate, right? Then they start negotiating everything else but price. Like, for example, term. Well, yeah, so you say, I'll give you $200,000. They're asking $200,000. I'll give you $200,000. You can't negotiate that anymore, right? But then you say to them, okay, I want to pay 10 years. They're like, no, I can't do 10 years. I'll do 5 years. See, they're negotiating a different value.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you've educated them or recalibrated their way of thinking because you gave them something else to work with.
Yeah.
This is making sense. It's a bit profound, but so you have to recalibrate. So sellers do not do the math themselves. They don't think of it. They don't know how to do the math. So you need to do the math for them. And the best math you could do, which is psychological, or what they want, which is greed, is get them to see the comparison math between if they sell now and if they take payments. This is where most rookies fall down. They don't do this math, right? So just to give you a quick idea, right? A $200,000 house, which you keep telling me doesn't exist anymore, and I'm beginning to believe you. But we used to do $100,000. Now we do a $200,000 house. If they were to sell it for cash, right? It would cost them 15% in closing costs. Means they net 170. If they're really savvy and they could do 10% with their closing costs, because it's going to cost them at least that much, they're going to get 180.
Yep.
If they keep the house for 3 years, this is the Grand Slam offer. If they keep the house for 3 years and do what we're talking about, a slot deal, they're going to get $282,000 on an average.
Yeah.
So they're getting $100,000 more money for the property. And the reason why they're getting that money is because, number one, we're going to save them the 15% in closing costs, or the 10%, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
We'll say 15%. We're going to get them cash flow, because most often, most people have a mortgage rate of 3 or 4% interest, and we could get a current. We don't use rentometer or anything. We use whatever the mortgage payment is going to be. And today's rate is 8%. So if you give them an 8% mortgage and they had a 3% mortgage, they're going to get cash flow. Because the number's going up.
Yeah, and the rent's based on what it costs to own the property.
The lease amount that we're going to charge, the lease LEASE amount, the lease amount is going to be what the mortgage should be, so that they're not lower than the mortgage amount. So when it's time for them to go to a mortgage, they don't drag their fee because they have to pay too much, right?
Yep.
So they're going to get cash flow. Every time the tenant pays the rent or pays the lease amount, the monthly amount, they're getting the use of the property. We don't give them any money for rent credits. So that means you're going to pay down your mortgage, which means you're getting more equity. Plus, because you don't live in the house, you're going to get capital gains tax, which is 3.64% a year. Plus, you're going to get appreciation. So one of the things that a lot of my clients will tell me is the seller says, if you're going to lease it for me, and 3 years from now, I'm giving the farm away because what happens if the price of the house goes up? Nowadays, when we write lease options, what we do is we put 2.5%. The first 12 months, the buyer can cash the seller out the first 12 months for the agreed upon price.
Right.
If they go past 12 months, at month 13, the price of the house appreciates by 2.5%. I'm sorry, by a quarter of a percent, 0.25%.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. Per month. Per month.
Per month, which is 3% a year.
Right. To keep up with appreciation.
If the seller is going to go 3 years, that means in 3 years the appreciation is going to go up over to 2 years because you give them the first year for free, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the price of the house is going to go up. You add up all those numbers, and it's $282,000. You're going to get $82,000 of value.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in most cases, right, is when we show the seller how much money they can have. So first of all, if they need 20 grand to go buy another house, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They won't want to give up the $100,000 worth of profit to get the 20 grand. So they'll either refinance the property or they'll find another way to get the 20 grand because they're like, why would I give up $20,000 to go get 20 grand?
Give up $100,000.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know what I said, but
20. But yeah. If they can see how much they can make, logically they should do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens is, we're in a vacuum. Who else is making them this offer? So our offer is against nothing because nobody else is making this offer unless you're one of my students and I taught it to you. No. So you're in a realm all by yourself. You're completely different than everybody else because you're using psychology and you're talking to them and telling them, you're asking them, what do you need and want? And they need and want all the money and they don't want to pay the fees. Well, you can give that to them. Why not give it to them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're making an offer that's so different that the seller feels foolish or stupid not to take the offer. Right? Like one of the things that we do is in the beginning of the conversation, when they say, they want all cash and they're stubborn about paying all cash, the very first question on the Grand Slam offer script is, so you're saying if I didn't give you $282,000, you won't sell? And well, what do you mean? They'll feel foolish not to at least get more information.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we give psychological type offers and stay away from the sociology type offers that the herd is giving.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a ton of demand for this Grand Slam offer when you approach it this way. Right? I create demand from, it creates a demand from your ability when you understand their psychology. And I'm not talking about, this is not some dark, deep subject, like you got to be licensed and spend 6 years learning this, right? For selling and giving away. So you're asking them what's needed and wanted, and then you're going to be able to give it to them with this Grand Slam offer, which is actually a slot deal, but you're explaining it, and it's a comparison deal between what they would get if they were paid cash, and what they would get. And I'm going to tell you what happens a lot of times is people don't want to do it for 3 years. They'll ask me, can you do it for longer? Because if you do that $200,000 house for 10 years, they make $400 and change. They double the price of the house. Right? So create the demand for abilities when you understand the psychology for selling and give them ridiculous, great, profitable solutions that are actually mathematically accurate and very helpful to the seller. The last point I want to make, and then we're going to move on. The last point I want to make here is, guess what? The resistance in their environment is going to change. When they tell their neighbor they're going to get $283,000 for the house, what's going to happen? When they talk to their lawyer for advice, what's the lawyer going to say? When they talk to their accountant, what is their accountant going to say?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to say no, or they shouldn't, because the house is worth $200 and you're giving them $283.
Well, the thing is, the illegal guys, especially the accountant, understands all that because that's what you and I see when we go see our accountant. He goes, "Oh, look at the money you saved on this. Look how much principal you. Look at your taxes, how much lower." We get that from our accountant.
Exactly.
So the accountant's not going to go like, well, they're money guys. The
Right.
accountant, especially the lawyer, might be like, oh, I wouldn't bother because I'm rich and I don't need to bother thinking about it. The accountant's thinking nickels and dimes, more money, more money. Ask the accountant; he'll tell you, yeah.
Exactly.
Ask your accountant. Ask my
Exactly.
accountant.
Exactly. The irony of this whole thing is I'm talking about if you were to do now. This is these deals we're talking about. We're talking about a slot deal today, but you could do this with a slot deal. You could do this with a lease option. A rent-to-own lease option, sandwich lease option that you stay in. You could also do this with a bond for deed, right? The
Mhm.
or a bond for deed,
Agreement for deed.
agreement for deed. Yeah, Connecticut's bond for
Well,
deed.
anything that the owner keeps the deed, so he gets the
Right.
benefits, right?
Right. So this is all done if the owner keeps the deed. Now the flip side of all this, which I don't want to talk about today, is if you do a subject to deal and you get a deed, you make all that money.
Yeah, the guy says, yeah, but I don't want to hold. I don't want the deed. I don't want. I just want to move on. So okay, we'll do subject to. You go, okay, fine, and then you
Right.
get the benefits.
Right. So commit to this philosophy today, test it out, and you will soon notice your deal flow increase quickly in today's economy. What I'm noticing in my 3 coaching groups is that there's if you talk around, especially since October, the first week of October, real estate fell on its face for a couple reasons. One of which interest went up to like almost 8%. Um, the other philosophy I have, which I'm going to try to do this in a couple minutes, but the other philosophy that I have is that for the last couple of years, with prices so inflated, what's been happening is the secondary houses, the houses that people aren't living in,
Hmm.
are the ones that have been selling. So it's been the rental properties and people that like they go into a retirement home and they have another place to go to, or they're
Yeah.
moving out of state, or those kind of houses have what been has been what's have been selling. That's what's been selling,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what's happening is the occupied houses are what's left. So what's happened is there's first of all there's less houses because we've been 2 years just buying up all these secondary houses, rental properties and all that kind of stuff, and that's kind of dried up because we've been buying it. Plus, instead of having 1,000 investors, now there's 10,000. So there's more investors trying to do it because when money's flowing like it is, people are the money guys are out there looking for deals. So uh, anyways, I think all that's coming to a head. That's another conversation. Next podcast 381, we are going to talk about the most catastrophic, catastrophic event that happened on October 31st, 2023. It is going to change real estate forever. And we're going to talk about that next week. Right. So I don't want to leave you in the dust and wondering how all this works. Right. I put a link inside of the description for today, and you can grab my little kit, which is it's going to cost you money. I'm not giving it to you for free. It's not very much money, and it includes the calculator for all this math and the script, and by the way, the script is psychological based, right? And it's all there. So everything I'm telling you today is there. There's a little kit. You should go purchase it because it will make you a genius in your area. I'm telling you, in all 3 coaching groups, the most amount of deals that we are doing is this Grand Slam offer and the slot deals.
Mm.
I'm in 3 coaching groups, and all 3 coaching groups each week when we talk about the deals, that's the deal we're talking about the most. Other deals are happening, but it's like 10 slot deals are to one other deal.
Mm.
It is the type of deal you need to do right now because of the way the economy is.
Yeah.
Right. So realize that when you're talking to a seller, price is what you pay. Value is what the seller gets. Okay. So price is for replacing money already in the deal. So they want high prices.
Mm-hmm.
And always comes down to a discount because of the closing costs. Value is showing the seller how to leverage the money that's already in the deal and get huge returns and everything they want. So psychology deals with value. Sociology deals with price.
Mm.
And value is what you want to give because that'll set you different from everybody else.
Yep.
Okay, so hopefully I made sense today. I didn't go too deep. Please make sure you leave us, thumbs up or thumbs down if you didn't like it. But hopefully we did a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you're watching us or listening to us. Uh, make sure that you go into the description and check out the link that I put there because I'm telling you, this little kit will change your life. I don't say that because I'm trying to sell you something because it's no skin off of my nose whether you buy it or not. I personally didn't want to sell it, but Sean put something together for Creative REI Reply in one of his funnels that he uses. So I just grabbed it because he already made it. I didn't have to put a bunch of work into it. So it's already there. So it's one of those type of things where if you want to change your life in real estate, you'll use it. If you don't, I'm cool with it. You do whatever you want to do. But I'm
No, Bill,
telling you
Bill,
what I see.
the calculator is worth whatever. I don't know what you're charging, but to see how the calculator works, yeah.
I could tell you right now that what some of my students will do with the calculator is they'll go in and do other numbers. And when they get a deal and they say they want to talk to their accountant, they just print the calculator and they email it to them and say, "Show this to your accountant,"
Oh,
and it's all over.
wow. Show it to your accountant. I like that.
Yeah, and it's all over.
Nice.
All right. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being with us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you leave us a good review somewhere. And we'll talk to you on podcast number 381. Don't miss that one. It's going to be a huge, I can promise you already. I've already done one Zoom call on it, and I was cranked up like a mother effer because I'm telling you, this is freaking huge. Okay? So make sure you tune in. Over and out. Flourish and prosper.